Heroes don't get any bigger.
Yo, dudes, the Empire's pretty chill. Maybe you could, join it or something.
Lucimus Prime here, so it is time for another review in my marathon of the Marvel Cinematic Universe's Infinity Saga. And in today's video, guys, I'm going to be reviewing what is the 12th installment of the franchise overall, and also the last one to be released as part of Phase 2 of the Infinity Saga. And this film, of course, as you've seen by the title and the thumbnail of this video, is none other than 2015's Ant-Man. So how was this movie made, guys? So, development of this film began in April 2006 with the hiring of Edgar Wright to direct and co-write with Joe Cornish. By April 2011, Edgar Wright and Joe Cornish had completed 3 drafts of the script, and Edgar Wright shot test footage for the film in July 2012. Pre-production began in October 2013 after being put on hold so that Edgar Wright could complete his film The World's End. Casting began in December 2013 with a hiring of Paul Rudd to play Scott Lang. However, in May 2014, Edgar Wright left the project, citing creative differences, such as that he wanted the character of Ant-Man to be in his own standalone movie and it wouldn't connect to the rest of the MCU. And of course, when this film was revealed to be part of the MCU, Edgar Wright backed out of it. He did, however, receive screenplay and story credits with Joe Cornish, though, despite leaving. The following month, Peyton Reed was brought in to replace Edgar Wright, and Adam McKay was hired to contribute to the script with Paul Rudd, so they both helped to write it. Filming took place between August and December 2014 in San Francisco and Metro Atlanta. The film had its world premiere in Los Angeles on June 29, 2015, and was released in the United States on July 17th as the final film of Phase 2 of the MCU. It grossed more than $519 million worldwide and received positive reviews from critics who generally welcome the film's smaller stakes than other MCU films, as well as its cast, particularly of Paul Rudd, Michael Pena, Evangeline Lilly, and Michael Douglas, as well as the human visual effects. When it comes to what I think of this film, guys, so, as I said in my review for Avengers Age of Ultron, I couldn't see this film at the cinemas because I was really busy with school. I had exams, so I needed to take time to revise for them, so I didn't have the time to go to the cinema to watch movies in this year, sadly. However, though, when this film dropped onto Netflix, I gave it a watch for the first time a few years ago, and I had a really fun time watching this, and I regard it as, in my opinion, one of the MCU's most underrated movies. I probably regard it as an underrated gem because I have a lot of fun watching this. I think it's really fun and underrated, and that's why I also recently got this Blu-ray Steelbook of it as well. So, what is the movie about? So in the film, Scott Lang, played of course by Paul Rudd, must help defend Hank Pym, played by Michael Douglas's Ant-Man shrinking technology, and plot a heist with worldwide ramifications. So yeah, so you could probably say this is, as well as a superhero film, it's also like a heist comedy film as well, in that sense. So what do I think is good about this movie then? So, the film has a really great cast of actors, so I definitely love Paul Rudd as the main character, Scott Lang, Ant-Man himself, and I'll always regard Ant-Man as my favourite role of Paul Rudd. Paul Rudd is really cool, and he does a really great job playing Ant-Man in this movie, and of course, in the next film, he'd go on to play the character in the Infinity Saga, and I think he was definitely perfect casting for a role, and definitely did a really great job playing the character in this in his first appearance, and definitely, you know, became one of my favourite characters in the MCU because he's so likeable and well-developed and just a good character. I definitely love the addition of Evangeline Lilly as Hope Van Dyne as well, who is, of course, the daughter of Hank Pym and Janet Van Dyne, and she is, of course, working as the senior board member of Pym Technologies in this, and I definitely really liked her in this. They gave her good character development where they brought her closer to becoming a hero throughout the movie. I definitely loved that development for her. And she, of course, would later go on to become the Wasp in the next film she'd appear in, so that was pretty cool. And I always will regard Holbrook as my favourite role of Evangeline Lilly, and she also recently earned my respect as well. So yeah, Evangeline Lilly is really awesome. So yeah, and I'll always regard Holbrook as my favourite role that she's played. I definitely as well loved Michael Douglas as Hank Pym in this. Hank Pym is one of my favourite roles of Michael Douglas, and I think he played his part really well in this, and he's among my favourite choices to play Hank Pym. I mean, because I definitely as well also love Wally Wingert from Earth's Mightiest Heroes, in my opinion, the greatest Marvel show of all time. And I definitely think that Michael Douglas was also a great casting for a role, in my opinion, and was played so well by him, and it's one of my favourite roles of his. My favourite role of Michael Douglas is probably his role in Basic Instinct, but I think in this one he did a really great job playing Hank Pym, and I definitely really enjoyed him in this, and yeah, definitely very good casting for a role. And also as well, I definitely as well loved the addition of Scott's friends. For example, I definitely loved Michael Pena as Louise, who is Scott Lang's former cellmate and now a member of his crew. And Louise was a very likeable, fun character to watch, and Michael Pena did a really great job playing him. And apparently Michael Pena based it on an old friend of his who had a very similar speaking into Louise and a similar behaviour, which was pretty cool. So yeah, and I think Michael Pena did a really great job playing Louise, and I do also believe that he actually reprised his role vocally in the LEGO Marvel's Avengers DLC based on this movie, which is actually pretty cool that he did that. And I also definitely liked David Dastmalchian as Kurt, who is another member of Scott Lang's crew, and he was definitely a good casting as well, and he's appeared in lots of comic book movies, guys, this being one of them, and I think he did a good job playing Kurt, and he did a pretty good Russian accent too for this, and he worked with an actress called Isadora Goreshka to get the accent right as well, which was good. So yeah, so I like how he came prepared for a role, and as well as that as well, when it comes to the other characters in this, I definitely as well liked Bobby Cannavale as Jim Paxton, who of course is the police officer who is engaged to Scott Lang's ex-wife, Maggie. And I think Bobby did a good job playing Jim in this, and yeah, made him, of course, the character who wants to stay loyal to a police force, and I think he played him very well in this. And I definitely as well like Judy Greer as Maggie as well. I think she played her part well, and I definitely as well liked Abby Ryder Fortson as Cassie, who is Scott and Maggie's daughter, and I definitely really liked her. She was very likeable, and however, I will always definitely regard her as probably my favourite Cassie as well, because how likeable she was to her father. And there's no way in hell this character would become who she apparently is in that third Ant-Man movie, which I flat out refuse to watch. There's no way in hell that's her. No way. So, and as well as that, when it comes to smaller roles in this, we got a pretty cool cameo appearance at the start from John Slattery and Hayley Atwell, who both reprised their roles as Howard Stark, Tony Stark's father, and Peggy Carter. So it was definitely pretty cool to see them appearing, and they did a really great job with the de-aging as well for that scene, because they de-aged Michael Douglas, and he was actually very convincing for that scene, very convincing, like very impressive. And they also used some technology and makeup to help Hayley Atwell appear older as well in the timeline as well, which was pretty cool. So they did a really great job de-aging the actors in that scene, really great job. And speaking of other characters who appear in small roles, we as well got an appearance by the Falcon in this, reprised by Anthony Mackie, and apparently as well, Peyton Reed wanted to include the character because of how much he loved the character in Captain America Winter Soldier, so he wanted to include the Falcon in this, and it would make sense to include the Falcon as the Avenger who Scott Lang encounters at the Avengers compound, because he's obviously training there, isn't he, working for the Avengers, so it'll make sense for him to show up. Although it would have been cool if other Avengers were there too, as well as Falcon. But yeah, I think Anthony Mackie was good in that scene, although maybe he deserved more scenes, well, because he was good in the scenes he had. I personally like Falcon in the MCU more in other films in which he plays larger roles, or to be honest. And also as well, when it comes to other good things in this, so We even get, speaking of cameos, we also got a pretty nice cameo appearance as well by the legendary Stan Lee, may he rest in peace, who appears in a montage at the end where Louise is narrating how to do a plan for something, like he does several times in the movie, and we see Stan Lee coming as a bartender, and yeah, that was definitely really cool to see, and yeah, rest in peace, Stan Lee. Thank you so much for everything that you've done for Marvel Comics, co-creating all these wonderful characters and inspiring billions of people around the world. Thank you, Stan. Rest in peace. And speaking as well of Hope Van Dyne's mother, Janet, we do get an appearance by her where we see the reason why she's of course disappeared, being that she vanished while trying to stop disabling a nuclear missile, and she disappeared into a subatomic quantum realm and believed to be dead. So, and this is of course why Hank Pym is warning Scott Lang that he could suffer a similar fate if he overrides his suit's regulator. And I definitely think that it was pretty cool how they included Janet, and Peyton Reed casted an actress called Haley Lovett as Janet in that scene in a non-speaking cameo, and he cast her because she had eyes similar to Michelle Pfeiffer, and it's actually a really awesome coincidence because Michelle Pfeiffer was Peyton Reed's dream casting for the role of Janet, and in the next film he'd actually cast Michelle herself as Janet, so that's pretty cool, isn't it? So yeah, so I like how even though Michelle Pfeiffer was in this film, they did sort of acknowledge the dream casting in this by casting an actress who has similar eyes to her. And I've seen a picture of the actress who plays her in this, and she does have similar eyes to Michelle Pfeiffer, yeah, like wow. And as well as the cast of this movie being good, I definitely think the film has a pretty good story. I say a story in terms of like a comedy and a heist movie as well as a superhero film, because the film nails the humour in my opinion. It's pretty funny and I get a good laugh watching this movie, and Scott Lang is a very funny character at times, and also as well, visual effects are also fantastic. I think the visual effects for the suits shrinking is very mind-blowing, and the way they do that is just absolutely brilliant. It blows my mind how they're able to do that for this movie. And considering this movie is 8 years old, of course, this coming July, in my opinion, it's aged fantastically. Like, really well. It's a shame the same can be said for anything recent the MCU's doing, isn't it? Especially this film's second sequel, which I, of course, like I said, refuse to watch. And the film also has a very good soundtrack as well, composed by Christoph Beck, and what's pretty cool is, as well as composing lots of pretty good music in this, which is very unique and brand new, he inserted older themes, which is pretty cool. So when Scott Lang is about to land on the Avengers compound and we see it emerging from the clouds, Christoph Beck actually composed the Avengers theme by Alan Silvestri for that scene, which is actually a pretty good detail. And when Falcon appears, he included the Falcon's theme from the Winter Soldier, which was pretty cool. And as well as that, when it comes to detail in this, when you see the Avengers compound, when Scott Lang is about to land onto it, you can actually see the symbol on the ground that Thor left behind when he returned to Asgard, which is actually a very impressive detail right there. Like, they did a very good job with that. And so, and as well as that as well, when it comes to as well the film, as well as having a very good story, which is a lot of fun to watch, the film also brings back lots of happy memories for me, because in the final fight of the movie, when of course Scott Lang is fighting the film's villain, which is the Yellow Jacket, also known as Darren Cross, who of course was an original character from Marvel Comics, who was given the Yellow Jacket mantle in this movie, and when he's fighting, of course, in Cassie's room, there's actually like a train set, and it's actually as well a Bachmann model of Thomas the Tank Engine. And seeing that in the film definitely brought about lots of happy memories for me when I was a kid, because for those you don't know, my first ever franchise I watched when I was a kid was Thomas the Tank Engine. Yes, even before things like Star Wars and DC and Marvel and all that, my first ever franchise, guys, was Thomas. So seeing Thomas appear was just amazing for me, brought about lots of memories, and I'm also so glad they didn't, like, damage the train or anything like that, and because apparently they made a deal with a licensing to make sure the character wouldn't be hurt in the movie, so I was happy they did that. And it was actually as well really funny how they made the Thomas engine model suddenly get really massive. So that was actually really funny. So yeah, that was definitely nice happy memory for me right there. And as well, you know, a very fun story to watch as well. Film also has a very exciting end credit scene because in the mid credits, of course, we see Hank Pym showing Hope a new Wasp prototype suit, and opposite to her. So that was definitely a nice setup for this film's first sequel, of course. And then of course we got a post-credit scene as well, showing that Steve Rogers and Sam Wilson have Bucky Barnes in their custody. They can't contact Tony because of something called the Accords. But Sam Wilson then mentions that he knows someone who can help. He's of course referring to Ant-Man. So that of course was a setup for the next film in the MCU being Captain America Civil War with the start of Phase 3. So, and that scene makes a lot more sense when you watch it because I think it's literally included in the next movie. So, yeah, you'll understand that scene when you watch it as part of Civil War, of course. So, yeah, but it was a nice setup for more to come, though. And, yeah, so, and also as well, so yeah, this film is just a lot of fun to watch and it holds up really well in my opinion. I think it's a very fun, underrated gem. And I definitely have lots of fun watching it. And from last night's rewatch of my steelbook of it, it was just a lot of fun. So, that's my opinion on Ant-Man, guys. However, when it comes to bad qualities, though, so now, when it comes to my bad quality with this movie, as you guys may have probably guessed, my main bad quality with this movie is probably the villain. Because, unfortunately, the film introduces a very forgettable villain once again, sadly, which is a massive shame. And that villain, of course, is the Yellow Jacket, also known as Darren Cross, played by Corey Stoll. Now, I personally am not really a fan of Yellow Jacket. I think he's you know, just boring and forgettable. I mean, Corey Stoll is a good actor, guys. I mean, I've seen him in a show called Restrained. In my opinion, that show is not really good, in my opinion, but I think he was better in that than he was in this, if I'm to be completely honest. And I've seen other roles too, I think he's also good in as well. But personally, guys, I'm not really a fan of Yellow Jacket. I thought he was just really boring, to be honest, and just very forgettable, sadly. So, he unfortunately lies in the category of being in the weaker MCU villains to me, sadly. And although, I mean, the CGI for his suit was good, though, because the suit was a mocap suit that Corey Stoll wore, and it was very good CGI for it. Although I am, however, we're curious to know why they didn't make him a suit, though, like how they may, of course, made Scott Lang's suit. Because that's practical, in case you guys wonder if that's like an actual suit and they made for Paul Rudd to wear. Whereas, of course, Corey Stoll's suit was a mocap suit. And so, when it comes to of course, Yellow Jacket in this, I just thought he was really boring. I mean, his final fight with Scott, though, was good and very well made and visually stunning with all the shrinking. It was just very impressive how he was able to do that in this movie. And as far as I'm concerned, guys, when Yellow Jacket, of course, gets crushed by the regulators being overrided, of course, and Cross's suit, of course, shrinks uncontrollably. As far as I'm concerned, that, to me, was the end of Yellow Jacket. I like to, of course, canonically say that is the end of Yellow Jacket right there. Because I like to pretend that whether the hell Yellow Jacket became in this third Ant-Man movie was just not real at all. Because if you guys wondering, yes, I am very much aware of how, of course, Yellow Jacket somehow becomes MODOK. And I say MODOK in quotation marks because there's no way that character is MODOK at all. I mean, I can't believe that they completely massacred MODOK in that third Ant-Man movie right there by making Yellow Jacket MODOK. One, of course, MODOK's real name in the comics is George Tarleton. So, yeah. And, of course, don't you dare get me started on the abominable CGI. It's because of MODOK that it makes me appreciate the CGI in this film way more. The CGI in this is 10 times better than whatever the hell the CGI is in that third Ant-Man movie, from what I've seen of it. And MODOK, in my opinion, was a complete joke in that third movie. But yeah, screw that movie all the way. And if you guys was asking if I'm going to review it, my answer to that is hell no. Because I stopped watching the MCU after I saw Spider-Man No Way Home. And I'm happily going to keep it that way for my own sake. Because I feel that if I continue, I'll be heartbroken. So yeah. But long story short though, guys, I love the first Ant-Man movie. It's a lot of fun for me to watch. And rewatching it last night was once again lots of fun. So yeah. So if I was to give it a score out of 10, I'd probably give it a very solid score of 8.5 out of 10. Because like I said, guys, the only bad quality I have is I think Yellow Jacket is a very forgettable villain. And I just wasn't really a fan of him at all. I just thought he was boring and forgettable and just not memorable, in my opinion. But I would rather have him be Yellow Jacket in this than MODOK, 100%. So yeah. So guys, this is me doing my review for, of course, 2015's Ant-Man. So you know the drill, guys. Be sure to give this video a like. Also, be sure to let me know in the comments what you guys think of Ant-Man. If you've seen it on the console, what you think of it. Also, be sure to join Team Prime by pressing subscribe for more videos coming in the future. If you would like to be a member, you can press join using a piece of that, or you can leave a description, and I'll see you all later.